And we are hot. Hey, 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 what's up, world? You got Chief here,
The Americano.
and we are here to just wrap. B, what were you talking about? You were talking about what the Bucks, the NBA, the NBA.
Yeah, I was on the phone with a buddy talking about the fires up in Central California,
Yeah.
and he mentioned that the Bucks decided to stay in the locker room to protest. I didn't get into the specifics, and obviously I know Milwaukee is in Wisconsin, so I don't know if it's related to the.
Oh no, it is. It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. I saw that as well. They're saying they're protesting the shooting and stuff like that. It's like, you know, like you know how I feel about it, but I know probably a lot of people watching don't, and it's like,
They're starting to. They're starting to know how you feel.
yeah, well, there's probably because they're feeling the same way, and it's like, this is what y'all stop shit for? One person? I mean, literally 38 kids were killed in the month of July in Chicago because of the defunding and the mass, the peaceful protests. But now this is what y'all want to stop everything for and make your statement.
The thing, the dynamic about it that really
Right.
it bothers me the most is that the response is so instantaneous that and there's not a minute to either just assess that situation specifically, or to look at basically the history of the individual. And it seems like time after time, all of these big protests, which leads to the destroying of communities, it stems from not that great of dudes getting caught up in situations where they get killed. And again,
that's what I mean, right? It's like the reports from the shooting was they were called in hearing multiple gunshots. Mm-hmm. The person that was identified has violent incidences, including weapons charges and discharging of a weapon on his sheet.
Yeah.
So look, again, I wasn't there. I don't know. 6 sounds crazy amount if you're super trained, but I don't know, but to sit there and do this, but I go back to I mean, everything we break down, it's like we talk about how, how the Dems are project who they are on everyone else. They don't mention the kids. They don't mention the truly innocent that get killed by other people out there. Mm-hmm. But they want us to, I mean, Chicago, that riot that happened 2 weeks ago was because of a lie, of a shooting lie.
Yeah.
A guy who was a criminal shooting back. Now, is this guy, did he have a gun? Was he shoot back? I don't know. Yeah. But the other one, they ran cars into the storefronts.
And again, that's the one thing that I find that seems to be sort of the common ground, especially within the conservative Black community that's pro police, is that we all understand that there's an issue with police right now across the country. And again, that's a side issue, but you can't, when a cop gives you an order, whether you like it or not, you just have to take it at that time. You can fight later in the courts and you can get a lawyer. And again, I know that there are gigantic issues with that because it's not easy to do. But my point is, when a cop orders you to stop and not go to your car, hands up, and you don't obey, it's a perfect recipe for these cops to make bad decisions.
Yeah. Well, here's the other side too. It's and they never want to talk about it. And that's something that I've seen never be approached in the Black community is our fucking problems. They never want to talk about it. They never want to talk about the kids being unruly, the boys being running all over the place with each other, our neighborhoods being shitty or whatever. Because if anyone mentions it, then you don't get it.
It's racist.
You don't get it. No,
but you're from Chicago, and not only that, you see the impact and the decline of the city of LA in the 15 years that you've been here. So it's not like you're speaking to it from a position of not having experience.
Well, I always say one of two things. If you're non-white and you're like, yo, or if you're non-Black and you're like, yo, this area, these neighborhoods are dangerous, and like, oh, that's racism. If you are of the color, then it's just, you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? So how do I not get seeing shit on the ground and that being cool? How do I not get seeing people under tents, living in tent cities, Skid Row, all that stuff, and I don't get it? These things that you point out when you're talking about even listen to the cops, this, that, and the other. And even some people, let's not, we're not fooling ourselves to say that, as even when people in general listen to cops, like they don't get messed with, because they still do. But imagine this, and I said this to a friend yesterday: if all your music is saying F the cops, you're right. Your TV shows and movies are telling you that. The same people who are smiling to you and you're buying your stuff, talking about F this, F that, and telling you you're owed something.
But to build on what you just said, because that's a critical part of it. But on top of that, just think of just the last 2 or 3 years, how police in major metropolitan areas have been, they've had their ability to police reduced, right? So they don't engage with the community. And at the same time, we've seen over, in particular in New York, how they just, the level of disrespect, and how they throw water at them and throw them out of their neighborhood.
That's what I mean. It's like, so we can go all the way back to like Public Enemy, when they're initially saying something, words like there is corruption, let's point out the corruption. And then it just morphed into like NWA, just fuck the police, and that's all it has been since then. It's not even addressing the corruption anymore. Yeah. And the corruption has gotten morphed into it's the system. So it means it's the country. But again, we talk about this all the time. It's been run by a certain group consistently
for a long time.
How do we know how the other way is going to be, like, for good or bad or whatever? And people want to say, look in the South. I go, well, I don't see like gang violence to the level that is in Chicago, Baltimore, Oakland, New York, LA. Like, so is it that bad then? Is this the freedom that the Dems are promising us? Because babies are dying, man. Like, that's not babies are dying, and no one, there's like, literally there is nothing. When I see posts from people who I grew up with that live in the city of Chicago, and they try to like justify, well, Black Lives Matter doesn't mean it mean that. And I'm like, do you not see that kids, you have a son, homie, you have a son, and you're the kids are getting shot 38 in July alone.
Yeah.
Like it baffles me, man. And it's like, I watched this thing, it was Candace Owens. She was like, I'm wondering, like, what does Black America want? And they've gotten the people in America, a lot of them young, but they got the people in general. And for a long time, they've been beta testing all this in the Black community, and they got them just ready to jump off at nothing. I mean, that's incident that happened over the weekend when we were at the Save the Children's rally. I'm happened to talking to this guy who's he's wearing a MAGA hat.
A guy wearing a MAGA hat and a face mask. Yeah.
And a face mask that had MAGA on it. But he's a Hispanic cat. Met him before, and others, he is an Hispanic cat. Met him at the Freedom rallies. And we're talking. He wanted to interview me, and we're just chatting it out. Like, whatever. This random Black dude had nothing to do with the march or anything. Walks by, looks back at him, and goes, "I will fuck you up, motherfucker. You ain't shit."
Yeah, no, I wasn't within earshot at the time, but I was there as it unfolded, and it was it's just another example of, again, the amount of times that we've been out, that we've seen that kind of thing from from a certain group of folks, and
then it's justified and it's okay. And I tell people this all the time. I had a friend grew up with, he told me that, like, hitting someone not of your race because they call you the N-word or nigger or whatever is justified, like it's defending your ancestors. And it really hit me that, like, because I've heard that before, but I never really thought about it. And it hit me because what he's saying is, and what has been taught to so many, is that we know what the law is, but because you feel justified, break it. But you know what happens? Until now, we haven't seen, like, most places, like, kind of be like, all right, it's cool. But now feds are getting involved, and the laws are still the laws, regardless on how they're trying to tell you to feel. And so,
but again, it breeds a lawlessness that, again, whether it's,
you take the men out of the homes in '94 with the '94 crime bill, and before that, the war on drugs that was paying for illegal war. So everyone's responsible from the past who have been in government for 40 to 50 years. And you take the men out, and then you start in the 90s at the same time, you're doping up all the boys with Ritalin so that they numb the fuck down and they lose critical thinking abilities. And those are the ones breeding and getting kicked out. And we see what it is with
and again, with the strategic promotion of the hip hop culture, whether it be the rap music or the
trap culture, all that shit. It's like, look, and we said this the other day, man, we're not Like, I'm not sitting there saying that there's people can't do whatever they want. It's like there should be a balance out there. And we're seeing in music and movies, especially in the last 3 years in movies, it's all agenda based. So it's not saying that I'm mad or upset that a female or lesbian or gay or whatever you want to say, that I'm this or that to justify you disliking my opinion. But what I'm saying is, tell a good story and it won't matter. But they've been force feeding us something, and it's
it goes back to the continued argument of things that are organic. Perfect example is, I use it all the time, but the movie Alita. For me, Alita isn't a movie for me that I would jump out and go see, because again, I'm not gigantic. Oh, let's push the robotics thing and the transhuman thing. But at the same time, if you sit down and watch the movie, they built the character and she became relatable, and there was the human. So it became a good story where I didn't even look at her as a woman actor. And at the same time, it was when Captain Marvel was coming out. And even before the movie was coming out, it was tested super poorly. And then they started pointing finger at men and then white men, and it's not for you. And it's so again, you have
Speaking of which, or go ahead and finish, because
I was going to say, so you have the direct impact of the Hollywood culture that can dictate the content that comes out, and then obviously you have to look at their marriage with China. If you're going to look at what they are allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, even like their alignment with China, because this will lead into it. Their alignment with China is not just what they're allowed to say, but what they are a lot of times pushed to spew out to us.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like you look at just the NBA, and you look at like everything they talk about and everything they do, how LeBron James is quick to try to criticize the country that at 17 made him a millionaire, but won't say a word when they're literally, the overhead drone footage that everyone knows of shit. We'll pull this up. So talk about it with the Muslims over here in China getting taken out. Not a word from King LeBron. I thought, you're fighting this huge battle, and you're coming out and speaking for everybody. I'll tell you what, like you and I are both, we were Division I athletes. But I never at 17 got $1 million and had a shoe contract. So you don't understand anything that I've been through.
Yeah.
You don't understand anything majority of the people live here, especially black folks, have been through, and not to take away his own experience, but you can't then come up and go, we are this. We are nothing, LeBron.
Again, I don't understand how he tries to blanket it. And again, as they don't love us. They don't love our black men, our black women. When I'm like, man, it's like, you're just painting a picture of victimhood,
right.
that and again, as a dude that has such a powerful voice, being again as popular and as successful as he is, again as an adult now, maybe when I was younger I would have looked at it and been maybe more supportive, but as a grown man now with kids, I just sit back and I look and I just shake my head from the standpoint of like, yeah, what are you doing? And like, look who you're choosing to side with. Again, the other day I know he made a really strong statement when there was a big fuss about the Goodyear tires.
Oh yeah.
And I know that, I don't even know if you saw that. We didn't talk about it, but right afterward, LeBron basically came out and said something along the lines of like, we don't bend or break for anybody or something like that. And I'm like, man, that's exactly what you and the whole NBA and Kerr and
that's fine.
And that's what the MO is.
Here's the thing. That's great. Let them do that. I want them to do that because no one's watching. And after a while, that money ain't gonna be there anymore. No one's gonna give a shit.
So back to this. So we have the Bucks that boycotted tonight, right? Again, I haven't had a chance to get into the specifics. I know it's pretty breaking news in the last few minutes, right? So actually, let's make sure that we hashtag that. But again, this is coming from someone who tries to check the pulse of a lot of different folks. It's not going to test well. Them boycotting this is not going to test well with people that are already struggling with basically either what. How many people have you talked to and I talked to? And again, we had folks around the other day that were specifically saying that they were kind of hardcore NBA fans, big Lakers fans,
and
they're just not turning the television on. you know?
Oh, well, and it's it's interesting, right? Because I have this theory I've talked to you about where it's like everything's kind of going down into a drain all at the same time, right?
Mhm,
So at the same time you're talking about this, and they're continuing to turn people off of the product of the
mhm,
NBA. The NBA is hugely back, is on ABC and TNN. It's just a Disney, it's usually backed by
mhm,
Disney. Disney is arm in arm with China.
yeah,
I was watching the other day because of the $900 million loss that they've been
mhm.
taking because of Star Wars and Star Wars. Um, they're apparently firing anyone who's coming up with woke bullshit. They're firing people now. Like this is the money talks, man. These are still businesses. The money
Yeah,
talks.
no, I mean, again, I will believe it when I see the
Yeah,
kind of content change,
yeah.
because I mean, I know ultimately at the top of the heads of those studios, you're going to find super far left leaning individuals that have to sign off. But again,
I mean, they're
it's,
getting rid of
listen,
Kathleen Kennedy over there,
but
Disney.
again, but think about how perfectly it speaks to what you speak to a lot of the individuals that are artists of this change that we're going to see.
Oh
Maybe it won't be Disney that are making these maybe uh
normal shit.
more normal shit, less down the
It's
throat,
crazy. Like you got to be.
which opens up the market for someone else to do it. And
Yeah,
again, as I said to you before, there's a
yeah,
thirst for that kind of
yeah.
information and that kind of organic thing, as opposed to this reboot, this remake thing of
It's
being
all
told what to
plastic.
think, and doing, taking these franchises and just sort of destroying the idea of what they were meant for, what just to accommodate a new demographic, even though you don't even have to do that. If the
Right.
content is good enough, the demographic will come with it.
And that's the thing that for somewhere along the it's not somewhere along the line. We know they did it only because like they wanted this mental control. It's like not you and I talk about this all the time, and people can call it whatever they want, but it's not like just one thing. It's like these are steps for something. Like when they
Mhm,
started with Ritalin
mhm,
to calm the boys down, then
yeah,
they started giving everyone trophies.
yeah,
Now we're to the point where they're doing, as you should explain, silent Saturdays,
yeah.
like for their kids, where now you're taking organized sports and you're taking out the organizational part of organized sports.
Mhm,
This is not by accident. You see they're changing the curriculum in schools.
mhm,
Last year or 2 years ago, they made it like they gave kids in high school autonomy from their parents over their health records, right?
yeah.
Over their health. Now this year, and we saw it, they're putting 50 Planned Parenthood in the high school.
Did you by chance catch the woman that spoke last night at the RNC, that was one of the main former national leaders of Planned Parenthood?
No, what was her name?
I want to say her name's maybe Abby Robinson, maybe,
And she
but
she
she gave a 5 minute testimonial sort of about her experience. Sort of broke down some of the statistics that I saw sort of regurgitated online, where they specifically, we know this, but they upwards to 80% of all Planned Parenthoods are strategically located in poor communities. And
Oh yeah, we know that.
she basically goes through her process of, when she got to a certain level within the organization, they started telling her, like, look, we need you to increase the quota, and again, which means the babies, in order to
Now it's
be
in the high schools.
in order to generate revenue. And I don't know if that ties in directly to the high schools, but it makes complete sense, because again,
Well,
look at the
it
young
does.
population, and
It
then
does.
thinking
How
of,
does it not? How does it not? Like
I,
now,
and
instead of
look, let's date ourselves again. We're low 40s, right? So imagine the type of universe that these high schools are in now, with a Planned Parenthood underneath the same roof. It's like there's no accountability. It's like
and
the
and at the same
SPD.
time,
I mean, I just can't imagine it, man.
well, we like the kids that scored the lowest in here in California and across most states are black boys and girls.
Yeah.
And the black boys scored the lowest of anyone in their peer group when in every grade up to high school.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're telling me you're changing curriculum to Marxist, not my words, theirs,
Yeah.
Marxist ideology in a lot of these schools. We posted on our page, on Instagram and on Twitter. You can follow us at Chief and the Americano. Either one of those places, we'll have it up. Anyway, we have it up there where it's like you see these schools now going, we're going to cater to this thing. Last year, they passed a new education format where they were introducing pronouns and how to pronouns for your kids as early as junior or middle school to
Dude,
junior.
they were. Dude, I was, dude, and again, the thing that's the beauty and the curse of this homeschooling thing that's going on right now is, parents are basically going to social media with just different examples of, again, I saw this one the other day that was, I think it was a second or third grade curriculum where they had a snowman, and at the top of it, it was, they're like, oh, this is a boy, girl, and he and she, and then in the middle part, it was like, oh, and this is where we can do the like, bi and cis, and then the other one was like, this is if you like this, and I'm like, this is totally inappropriate, and this is, it's going to be found to be way more prevalent in these school systems than people thought.
Yeah,
especially with parents sitting in the background not working, hearing what their schooling is in the curriculum, and it's.
I mean, you had our friend Kim who was talking about her 16-year-old, and now it's crazy how like she's like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
I saw another dad that was from East LA, Hispanic cat, that's like, look, I don't post videos, but I have to talk about what basically is going on in my kid's school. And I think he had a middle school daughter, and he showed her the computer screen, and it was, again, all Black Lives Matter and racial unity, and again, like demonizing white, all of those things that we know are talking points in certain institutions, but again, they're coming to life.
And the worst part of it, outside of just it being like propaganda bullshit, they're not learning how to fish. They're not. They're really learning to wait till someone else tells them what to then feel again.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that comes out then is LeBron telling you what to feel, and so and so telling what you feel. And they're not teaching people how to fish, not teaching people how to be adults in this world. And we've seen it, man. We've gone now to different things. And how many times have I said, and now, and you talk to people don't even know how our government works, but they want to burn it all down. You don't even know how it works. Yeah. They don't even know. There's people older than me who don't know that the mayor's who runs your city. Like, I want everybody to just kind of think about that.
Yeah.
People who are a lot of
them. And then as you explain to them, it escalates to, maybe the county level. It can escalate to the state level / governor. And then if it's not solved, then obviously it can.
It's
the feds, right?
But it's like, but they don't even understand like
everything. But again, what it boils down to is everything's Trump's fault. It doesn't matter what it is. Basically, like even if it doesn't apply, it's because of him.
Well, that's the laziness, because then it's easy. I mean, this one woman, like probably 55, I was talking to the other day. It's always like a little white girl too. White liberals know everything. White female liberals know more than everything else. So just I don't really do that. She tries to tell me, did you know he put out that article with five? He was have the Central Park 5 and wanted them executed and blah blah blah. I was like, yeah. I was like, Hillary stole money from a whole country of black people and who starved to death. So I don't know. If you really want to hold stuff up, that's why I didn't vote for her. She couldn't believe it. She was like, yeah, well, no. Yeah, the same passion that you have for someone who didn't kill anyone, but just made a statement, have it for someone who did.
Yeah.
And just to enrich their pockets. No, nothing. What I mean? Like these people, like that's the level of the brainwashing. Like, it's this like moral high ground mixed with like righteous indignation, right? And you're like, dude, your moralities are shit anyway.
One of the things that I've noticed in the last couple of days, and again of other people commenting, because again, truthfully, I didn't watch either one. However, I know that there's been a sort of a knock on the RNC by sort of like the mainstream, and
of course,
they basically are saying that, why are they having these normal people there? The DNC is all about the celeb cause and John Legend and the basketball players, and like they're basically like, why are there individuals there that again, and then they did the Department of Homeland Security guy did the naturalization ceremony at the White House for those people, for the 5 people that were there in real time with Trump present, and it's like the yelling and again, frankly, the 2 young black ladies that we met in Beverly Hills that were in the wagon with the car.
Yeah, that was
we were pulled off to the we were pulled off to the side, and we were talking about family and stuff like that. And we came to the conclusion that the commonality that we find with a lot of people that we interact with is they're just so mad.
Yeah.
They're really, really mad, and they can be mad at one thing and it manifests into something else, but just deep, deep down, they're just really mad people.
Upset. They're
Upset.
upset, and they should be. Like, are you? I mean, like, seriously, man. Like, why? You have boys. You have babies like who aren't. They can't defend themselves right now, and like, I mean, to a certain extent, but they're babies still,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the world that they're putting up there. A 10-month-old shot around the corner from where my mom lives in the South Shore of Chicago. Like, that's okay. And we got we got little kids around this in neighborhood. It's like, what do we really for an ideology? So like they've removed, and I'm really huge. Like it hit me a long time ago where it's like I feel like they just like removed like caring about humans truly, because if you don't fit this thing, your humanity is okay for it to be taken away. If you don't fit this thing, I was going to share the screen of I want to show everyone you're talking about, because I think the video and the image was amazing of how it went down. We're sitting there with like seeing these amazing black women come up. To me, it reminded me of like the crossing of Delaware. Look at this. Can I even get a sound in there? No sound. No, but look at this. And this is the kind of thing like for 3.5 years, 4 years, because it started right when he started leading in the polls as a nominee. It's like for 4 years, they've been telling us that supporters of this guy they're the most evil individuals in the world. They've been telling us that how can black people even support this? Some of the black people that came out and they know that, when you're talking about Candace Owens and we have our the cliche black conservatives, they all call them coons and Uncle Toms. Mm-hmm. What is she? She's sitting here. Look at this. Well, a mother, and you can explain more about who they are, like as you were doing. But look at this. This is
look. It's a matter of, there was the footage the other day of I think it was the Black Lives Matter protesters going through Washington D.C. and going up to people at restaurants, basically being like, you got to show solidarity, you got to raise your fist. And it's like, the thing that the left doesn't understand is that with individuals, whether you're talking about their relationship with God, whether you're talking about their relationship with their family or their flag, they're not going to bend the knee. I know some obviously folks will, and frankly, given certain situations, I'm sure it's going to be hard for some individuals not to. But it's like I can't imagine being in that situation and just
sitting there.
Well, that's the sentiment that I'm getting from a lot of different people, where it's like that's the people again. We're seeing lines being crossed, where they're marching into people's, homes, and the doxing that's been going on, and the level again. We haven't even talked about what happened last night in Kenosha. Like what happened last night in Kenosha, in the grand scheme of things, is really it's an unfortunate escalation because it's something that we have seen that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, what happened again? Like you're saying, how quick it is, how like predictable it is. I mean, what happened in Kenosha is what is set to happen anytime anything is tossed out like that anywhere, because that is the plan. The plan is chaos. Mm-hmm. The fact that we saw how Chicago went down, even though all the numbers of all the babies dying, everyone's still coming out. You have the Black Lives Matter individual looking in front of the courthouse demanding their release, saying this is reparations, and people screaming behind them. And I sit there thinking to myself, so all these people screaming behind you don't care about the black babies because you're more worried about people in prison right now for destroying things because you believe it's reparations.
Yeah, people, we have enough conversations, and frankly, we go into the hot water of the other side. We don't just sit there and talk with people that are rah on what we think and feel. We go and we talk to folks, black folks, white folks, folks that are, you dig into some of these conversations with some of these individuals that are long conversations where you have to dismantle a lot of these
set, like parameters they have in their mind
that they have.
It's always something that's funny, and that's something that I wanted to share on here, and we've talked about it a lot. But it's like one of the things that I want anyone watching this to think about, right? If you look at you can look at the anarchy that the left offers, this, that, and the other, but let's look even closely at the ideology. And this is kind of the conversation I like to have when I talk to someone, for BLM or or we talked to that guy who's pro Bernie. The ideology of the left is anti-Second Amendment, anti-First Amendment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people there have been, it's victim culture,
Mm-hmm.
literally. Like, y'all can say whatever you want, it's victim culture. Because if you look around, like, remember how fat shaming, or that means if you say anything about someone's body, that's fat shaming. Yeah. Now we have a bunch of out of shape individuals that think it's okay, that's just them being them, and no one has to run and be a professional athlete. But come on, man, like, people in Europe live a different way for a reason, and for a reason. They don't eat like that. So now we have, let's look at the other side, the right. They're pro First and Second Amendment. Very important about that second one. And a lot of them are individualists who know how to handle themselves. A lot of them former, current military or police. Mm-hmm. And so then I look at the two opposing forces, and you may feel like you deserve it so much more. But if you understand the history of this world, no one just hands anything to anyone. We see them right now, this chaos, because the Dems don't want to fucking hand over the power. Mm-hmm. And so I ask everyone, because we have to live here together. Either we live here, or what they're asking for requires a bunch of out of shape people who don't understand violence, that are anti-Second Amendment against people who are pro-Second Amendment. And a lot of them are foreign, or are trained in how to take care of themselves. Yeah. So I always ask people, I'm like, look at what they've set you, the path they set you up on. Would you and your group of like 6 to 7 like white females, do you think you can take them down?
But again, it's almost as what I feel has happened with like the whole giving Black Lives Matter a little bit of benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah.
Aside from, again, Marxists at the top. I feel like many things that have good intentions, it got hijacked. It's been hijacked by Antifa from the standpoint of like, all of these protests. And again, many of these protests, they do seem a lot of peaceful protests that a lot of times at night they turn into a bunch of white folks burning stuff up, right? So again, like I don't pin all of that on Black Lives Matters. I feel like their movement has been hijacked.
No, I don't think it's been hijacked, because their founders are very clear what they are. The phrase of Black Lives Matter has been hijacked. The act of what they do is exact. I mean, because Ferguson, that was what, 2015?
14, 15.
14, 15, yeah. So we're talking about 8 years ago. And 6 years ago, sorry, it's still, and they only, we've seen Chicago continue to blow itself up in between that time, and never saw a march when it's a kid being killed by somebody, or another Black man being killed by somebody in that own community. So no, it's been like that this whole time. This is the last Hail Mary, man. We noticed, we talked about this a long time ago. We know the Dems are not going to go down without a fight. And they've had this thing where they have this statement. That's the Marxist tactic. You use the statement. And so then before we can get into the conversation of the nitty gritty, and before people even go read beyond, they're just, it's about how can you,
it's a block, yeah.
How dare you? You're like, wait a second, man. Can I talk to you about them wanting to break down the family unit? Yeah. And that being the main cause for the problem in the Black community.
And your reason for not supporting it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're one of their major tenets is the biggest reason why the Black community is in trouble right now, and that they want to continue to destroy. My cousins ain't buying that shit. He has 4 kids. He's gonna buy that. That means
again, in all fairness to people that don't have a chance to see the videos of the places that we were at recently, and I know that there's footage across the country. It's a lot of the Black men that we talk to.
Yeah.
They're like, look, this idea is it's insanity.
Yeah.
Again, but you're talking guys that are former firefighters, guys that are, entrepreneurs, guys that are, really well versed across the landscape, but it's a battle for the minds, man.
It's a battle for the minds, and we say this all the time, is like it started with Kennedy and Nixon, because he just looked good, and they were able to play that part of it. Mm-hmm. And then as time has gone on, it's like where there seemed to be a little more of a balance, like from shame to, first of all, propaganda, to shame everyone into shutting down, so that now we're at a point where like video games that come out that do well because of male-centric video game gets hit so hard, and if no one bites on it, then the follow-up is the next one should be female, and you're like, what do we do? Enjoy the game. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the game. One thing that grinds my gears the most is like, make your own shit. Stop making a black version of the Ghostbusters or a female version of the Ghostbusters or a black version of fucking Cinderella or, like switching all that shit up. Like, make a new story. There are so many stories of black people in this country alone we can make. There's so many stories of Africa we can make, our African own folk tales that we can make. But yet we're going to sit there and just repurpose and still end up telling the same white stories. What are we doing? And who's telling us, oh, this is progress?
Or slavery. That's the two options.
It's like, what are we doing? We're dumbing ourselves down to be okay with, well, as long as they put like a different mask on the same thing, on the same messaging. Oh, that's inclusion.
But again, we're seeing the results of what the consumer thinks of that, which has been a steady decline, which has been a rapid decline, which is going to continue to be, again, as they double down, which they will. The decline will simply increase. And again, like you said, when people's actual bottom dollar starts to get affected, that's when life happens. Which brings me to an interesting point. I was going to tell you the other day. Actually, I talked to a guy the other day about the super high end, like residential real estate market here in LA. I talked to you about the market in New York recently, but the other day we were talking about LA. And all of the super high end stuff, those multi-million dollar stuff, like that market is really starting to sort of buckle down. Like the stuff that he had listed is everything's taking major price hits. And it's an entirety of the impact of COVID, right? But what you and I know is that people that have been rich during this process have got way, way richer.
And that's what happens. That's what happens in the chaos, because like one thing that they never, it pisses me off, because I was listening to an interview Trump was doing, and it said like, what can win through this? He goes, mutual success. Success is what binds people. And then you look at the other side, and they sell in jury, and like misery is what binds people, and that's one of the things that you're able to boil down to a bottom line with a lot of people that you talk with that don't agree with you on a lot of things. You talk about the money part of it, because ultimately it's the money that gives people independence. So you ultimately have to choose who is going to allow you to have more money in your pocket. Exactly. They can always sit there and make your heart feel whatever they want to feel. But if you don't have money in your pocket, you can't get out of this city when it goes to shit like they're wanting it to. If you're in New York, man, thank God my cousin got out of Harlem, because he wasn't making much money, but he got out like last summer. Now imagine if he's there. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They sit there, they cash strap us with their taxes that are crazy here in this city. But yet you're like,
well, I mean, and again, not to get into the specifics, but give a really super high level of the audacity of the health insurance situation right now for like entertainers.
Being in the entertainment industry, SAG just sent out the letter saying you get cancellation of your, because you have to make a certain amount in order to get a certain level of insurance. And they just
over 3 months, right? In the last three months, right?
And they're like, well, here's the over like a year. So it's a year thing that they calculate. So I just got mine in the mail, and it was like, your cancellation notice is here. You have 60 days to respond. And it's like, how many people? Governor Newsom himself kept everything shut down for at least 6 months. How many other actors and everyone who's getting out of SAG or any other, kind of like merit-based anything, it's just now have 6 months, and you're just getting a form letter because time's up. Like that's the thing that baffles me, because I'll be fine at the end of the day. Like, I'll be okay, because I take care of myself, eat right, like do stuff so that the health insurance doesn't have to be a number one priority, because I want to live a certain way that hurts my insides.
But there has to be people in Los Angeles in your situation who have their health insurance, but also their children are on SAG health insurance. So it's like these people who have had zero opportunity to work in the last 6 months. 6 months.
6 months. And then
because they have their wrongdoing or losing their health insurance now because they didn't hit a quota.
And then think about it like this, right? It's worse than that, because unless then you have a certain tier agent, so you're not even possibly getting out for certain things. So now you're not able to hit those things because, like, if you don't have a certain tier of agent, it's just a lot of different moving things that it's like, well, now, we just had a project that like they're looking for me to find people because they just like me, but they don't want to deal with having to find two other actors
right now
because of the quarantine. So that's two actors for sure that are missing out on jobs if I get this part, for people who, they're kind of around the industry, but they're not actors. And it's like, well, okay, like I see you got to do what you got to do. Like, I'll never hate, non-citizens and illegals for coming up from their garbage area. I'll never hate people for that. I'll never hate people for doing what they got. But it's those that are given the power that, by the way, given the power by us. We forgot. Yeah. It says we the people. It doesn't say we who, like them, and then they can tell us what to do. It's about us. So if our city suck, we suck. If our state sucks, we suck. And that's the thing that people just want to sit back and go, well, we have to wait for some messiah. And that was one of the biggest things to me that Obama did that helped destroy part of the independence of this country, is they sat there with the media's help and they put him up like he was a fucking god. This guy went to Flint, Michigan and did a show. Oh, I can drink the water, ain't nothing wrong, and didn't take a sip of anything, like nothing. Where was CNN? Where was MSNBC? Where was the Washington Post? Where are these guys with the outrage that Trump, did all these outrages that they come up with, but nothing when black people were getting led in their bodies and their kids' bodies. And this guy comes here and wants to be like, cool, dancing on Ellen, that miserable bitch. Sorry, I went all over the place. I don't care. I'm sorry, not sorry. I'm sorry I cursed, but I'm not sorry for what I say and what I believe about them, because they show me time and time again they don't care about people. You tell me otherwise. And I'll tell you this out there live too, because I talk to people. I would love anybody to come here and prove my positions wrong and what we're looking at and what we're trying to get, and show me how that other world and what they're offering is better. I wish, please come and talk, because I'd love to just have that conversation, dude. I'd love it because it goes beyond just feeling pissed.
Yeah, man. It's I think the thing that people, especially right now, and especially as bad as things can potentially get, one side has to be Christ-like.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, and again, that's real easy to say, but I mean, like, this is new to us, what we've been doing, but at the same time, it's like, I'm fine now with standing across from somebody and them like basically verbally accosting me, or like but here's the thing, I'm fine with it. I wasn't for sure how I would feel about it. Now I see it and I'm like, okay, there's nothing to have a conversation with this guy, but maybe this person next to him is maybe less hardcore, and I can have a conversation with them.
What's happening though too, it's like, because they feel so justified, and when you start having real conversations, and then they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So it's like when a kid calls you a name. If you respond to that kid in kind in that same way, then you're down to that kid's level. But if I know you don't know what you're talking about, and yet you're yelling and saying stuff over here, and we know what the script is, it's not individual. Yeah. We know where it's going to go. That's why I know where the argument's going to go, and you know where the argument's going to go, because it's all scripted. We've seen it over and over. So that's why, of course.
Look, man, I pray that cooler heads prevail, right? Yeah. And again, this isn't coming from a standpoint of being weak. It's the exact opposite, because I think it takes a lot of tremendous strength to basically to choose not to escalate things to a physical level, right? And I think that's what we have to work hard at right now, because again, with each and every day, with each and every incident, things are going to escalate. And I think, again, my message again to you and to people that give two shits is that care as much as we can, prepare as much as we can, but at the same time, it's like, be prepared to see anything, Yeah.
And I think that's something we've seen. We've seen it ourselves, man. Like over the weekend with the incidents and everything that happened there, it's like, dude, people on our side, I hate saying sides, but it's like people on our side of the fence were dancing and singing and enjoying themselves. That was not happening on the other side. And they can say why they're mad all they want. Fine, that's their prerogative. But they came over to our side when we had nothing to do with them anymore.
Yeah.
When we were bored of them and just showing our support for each other, they came over. They started to push because they're fucking babies. That when they didn't get enough attention, any attention is good. Any attention. So like with that
And
said,
for them any way that they can tarnish a peaceful event, it's a win.
Well, here's the thing, because they know that like the media is on their side regardless. So like they'll sit there and we'll say it out here. It was a white girl chasing down a black Trump supporter who wasn't going to allow her to burn the American flag. Then she turns around and sucker punches another black girl, and then a black person on their side sucker punches a Hispanic Trump supporter. So it wasn't no white people anywhere getting their asses kicked.
Crazy, right? I know.
On the other side, fucking starting shit. So let's see like what it is. It's just anarchists, man. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't even know what they really want. Because on the other side of this, we know what Gavin Newsom's releasing 18,000 prisoners by Monday.
Yeah.
Where do you think they're going to go? Because they're not going to Beverly Hills. They're not going to Westwood. They're probably coming to the same neighborhoods that just got defunded for the police. So good luck, black people. Good luck. And they don't care.
Yeah, man. I know we have to hop off in a second, and I had a couple messages going back and forth with Majors folks and Sal, and we basically were just looking at, again, how just listen to this roster, right? And I'm probably forgetting a few names, but just again, look at the current state of California, right? You got Gavin Newsom, you got Eric Garcetti, you got Eric Swalwell, Ted Lieu, Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, and that's just like 6 or 7 from the state of California. And I'm missing
Swalwell's. He's from here.
Yeah, he's from California.
God damn it.
Yeah,
I get it now.
That's just a few. And again, I'm not even saying that there aren't really shitty Republican ones. I'm just saying that's a few of their leaders as of right now, And it's like, how can we expect this state to be anything less than the shithole that it is?
Very true. Shit. That's very true. And with that, we'll let you guys go. Check out our next episode coming soon. We're trying to do this at least every other day. Please like, subscribe, and share it. Follow us over on Instagram and Twitter. The link is below. Let
us know if you have any questions.
We love you. Stay safe out there. Remember, God always wins. I'm gonna go outro music. It's gonna be something that I'm gonna work with.
Get the keyboard.